Soulsville Charter School in Memphis is a uniquely musical school.
We share our campus with the Stax Museum, which is the only soul music museum in the entire world.
Our mission is to prepare students to succeed in life and in college through a music-enriched environment.
Our students are like musical fiends.
Students come to school knowing a lot of things, and that knowledge can help them learn new things. They'll take something they've learned at home, see it reappear in a math class.
And then they also see some of those same things happening in their music classes, so they're able to relate what I'm doing in my class to other classes, and it clicks so much more. I can say, this triangle is just like the triangle that you use when you're performing in band, and the silence of this is important for the certain sounds that you need to get. So I'm able to kind of make those connections, and kids are really like, oh.
This kind of building on prior knowledge is called elaboration. Many teachers use it already, even if they don't call it that. But what makes for good elaboration? The teachers of Soulsville are going to put the science behind elaboration into practice, testing out the science in their classrooms.
Elaboration basically refers to making meaningful associations to a particular concept. So thinking about what other concepts are related to it, thinking about your prior experience. It's the opposite of just rote memorization where you're just memorizing something and you're never thinking about it. What elaboration does is it increases the number of ways of accessing information. There are a couple ways of doing that.
Number 1, relate the new concept to the other parts of the lesson that the student has learned. Number 2, connect knowledge the students bring into the classroom to the new concept. Having students ask lots of why and how questions is a great way to encourage elaboration.
We've been reviewing convection currents this week. Somebody get me started. What do we know about convection currents?
What information is important for you to have in order to recognize that something is similar?
Of course, introducing new strategies, like having students do more elaboration, had its challenges.
After we met with Dr. Chu the first time, I was not a believer in the strategy. I felt stuck, and I was kind of like, you don't teach in a middle school in an impoverished neighborhood. I don't know how your strategies are gonna apply.
The teacher is in a unique position to know or find out what the student's base of knowledge is and create powerful elaborations from this.
If they can relate to like a personal experience of theirs, then that's a very powerful way of remembering.
And there's the challenge that plagues every classroom: time.
I want you to read about Newton's third law and then answer the corresponding question in your packet. 5 minutes, go. Time is a constant battle for me in a lot of ways. When your pacing is really, really tight, those 2 minutes that a discussion can go over can really throw a wrench in the rest of your plan.
A big part of education is teaching them to elaborate on their own so that they're actively thinking about, where have I seen this before? What does this remind me of? How can I use this information?
After talking with the researcher, it made me just more aware of providing those opportunities for students to explain or elaborate on their answers. I also began to implement digital interactive notebooks where students are on the computers and they're able to type and explain their thinking a little bit more.
Elaboration really helps with engagement in my classroom. Students are way more willing to talk about it when it's something that they can relate to.
We just had a test today and students did really well. I think that has to do a lot with giving them that opportunity to elaborate on their learning.
The teachers of Soulsville didn't have to give up their strict routines to find room for elaboration.
So a thing that I've implemented is something called a stand and talk.
I'm gonna give you 1 minute to answer these 3 questions.
They stand in the room somewhere and for 1 minute straight, they have to talk about that topic. I've done a lot of that lately here, and I've seen a lot more growth with the students being able to articulate their thinking and just take risks with explaining things, whether it's right or wrong.
I gave them time to discuss as a group, and then that group of 4 or 5 is presenting their best finding to the whole entire class. And that was way more manageable, and it flowed really, really easily as well. Prior to this project, I might have thought that in order to fully do elaboration, it would have to be an entire class worth of discussing something and connecting to experiences. Actually, it can be worked in almost every day.
It's important to share concepts like elaboration to help teachers be more intentional about the way they design their lessons so it increases the likelihood of success.
There's so much fun with like these rabbit holes conversations, and it's where like kids really become invested in things. Elaboration ends up sparking, I think, a good amount of inquiry in students if they don't already have it.
Elaboration is going to look different in every classroom because every classroom students have their own set of reference points from their city, town, favorite TV show, and music, of course. So whenever you can let students connect these things to what they're learning by asking lots of how and why questions, the science shows it's worth the time and effort. It's going to stick better.
You think about these concepts and sometimes you sit there in front of your computer, you're like, how on earth am I going to get these kids to reach this? And if you think, what are my strategies that I have? And just even being able to be like, oh, we can use here elaboration. It becomes a tool that you can use every day in your classroom.